Hey everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm playing the Tier 9 tank destroyers that just don't give up monkeys. They don't give a monkeys, right? This is the T95, a Tier 9 American super heavy tank destroyer, and this vehicle has been in the game pretty much since the beginning. Or actually, has it been in the game since the beginning? It used to be the highest tier American tank destroyer. And it never used to lead on to the T110E3 because the Tier 10 tank destroyers weren't in the game. And the T30, its competitor at Tier 9 currently, never used to be a tank destroyer at all. It used to be a Tier 10 American heavy tank. Would you believe that? Right at the top of the tree above the T34, which used to be a Tier 9 American heavy tank. Now it's a Tier 8 premium heavy tank. Things have certainly changed over the last 8-9 years, but I think a lot of it for the better. But one thing that hasn't really changed is just the ideology of the T95. Although I should say one significant thing has happened with this tank. Back in the day, it used to be limited to 13 kilometers an hour top speed limit. That's right, it was the slowest tank in the game. It was as slow as the TOG, but it was in the game before the TOG, right? But the T95 at 13 kilometers an hour was probably one of the most frustrating things I've ever played in my life. When I was playing it to get towards the T110E3, which was never as good as the T110E4, but now I'd say that it's probably at least more specialized and has more relevance than the T110E4 has. I'm not saying the T110E4 is trash. I'm just saying that the T110E4 doesn't really do anything that special, especially with tanks like the 60TP going into the game. Alright, so the T95, back in the day at 13 kilometers an hour, was just so horrific to play. I mean, it's slow now, able to go at 20 forwards. Imagine it back then at 13. It was literally unplayable on quite a lot of maps. Sometimes you would literally be just holding the W key the whole time, and because the battle was just over in a matter of minutes, you would never actually get into the fray. That was incredibly awkward, and so that's why, with my T95, I did it over a very long time. I did the grind over a very long time. I played it for a win, and then I stopped for that day. And then I played it for a win, and I hoped I won my first game, and I hope I didn't lose 5 or 6 in a row and get very frustrated doing so. And so, eventually, with enough daily doubles back then, this is before you had experience boosters in the game, this is before your premium account allowed you to boost your wins even further. Experience was a lot harder to come by. And so, eventually, by doing enough daily doubles, I made the pain of playing a 13 kilometer an hour top speed limit tank bearable to be able to get towards the Tier 10. The T95 now, able to go at 20 kilometers an hour, I'd say it's probably one of the better Tier 9 tank destroyers, although when I think about it, most Tier 9 tanks are great. Most Tier 9 tanks for some reason just feel really nice. I think that Tier 9 is probably an absolute sweet spot in World of Tanks for at least the last half a year or a year, and Wargaming have to do something very dramatic if they want to return Tier 10 and the meta that seems to be forming at Tier 10 into, again, the premier tier to play for fun. Alright, so I pushed the Object 705 sideways, which should allow that Type 4 Heavy, on my left to be able to finish him off, but he's unable to do so. So instead, I'm just going to be able to put one right through the front of the Object 705, finishing him off and claiming my second kill of the game. But what do you have to do in a vehicle like this? You have to make a decision at this point. Do you press on and try and catch up with the advance that may be trying to outflank your opponents, or do you go back and be the rock that the T95 is meant to be, to cover the base and to dominate the game? And that's exactly what we're going to do, but we're going to stop for just a moment, because the T95, with its big alpha damage like that, you don't need long with the aim time of this vehicle, which is actually a rather decent 2.5 seconds for such a large caliber gun at a mid-tier to be able to hit out some serious pain. But of course, that 2.5 seconds, well, it's okay for such a large caliber gun at Tier 9. This is the highest alpha damage at Tier 9, along with vehicles like the T30, along with vehicles like the Object 704, or even the WT Panzer IV if you choose to use the funky gun on it. Oh, this is a pressure shot. Will I be able to hit it? Oh, yes, I will. He drove straight into that one. I nearly missed that one. I hate shooting at French-wheeled light tanks, as I think a lot of the community do. But when you do hit them, it just feels so much more rewarding, right? So, the gun on this tank, it's definitely best suited for close quarters combat, this tank does way better in close quarters combat than it will do at long range. Why is that? Because quite often it can then stop its opponents from outmaneuvering it. And also it makes the .38 accuracy that this tank has not seem oh so painful. And there's just something about this tank. I mean, just look at this tank. It just looks awesome. I'm sorry, it looks awesome, but let's not worry about that now because we've got tanks to kill. SP1C, will we be able to derp over the ridgeline just trying to hit him? No, unable to do so. And you do make yourself fairly vulnerable in a vehicle like this when things like that happen. All right, we've got to think quick. Standard B behind us, AT-15 in front of us. GW Tiger P to the side of us. Luckily, you'll see that I use 2 repair kits in this tank and I don't use a med kit. It's a little dangerous if you do lose a crew member, but if your driver dies or something, all that affects is your traverse speed. You don't need to really worry about things. We put one right through the front of the British Tier 8 TD. And that's because this thing has 276 millimeters of standard penetration. We don't need to YOLO the gold on our opponents. And one thing that's hilarious here is we're actually turning the tank oh so quickly. We're turning it rather quickly indeed. I'm thinking, shall I use that second repair kit? Maybe I'll try and get it on naturally. Shall I get it on naturally? He's not really threatening me right now. Why would I use the second repair kit when there's no threat? However, the Swedish TD, that poses an imminent threat, so I'm going to use the second repair kit and he's going to go, oh dear. That's why I love to use 2 repair kits in this tank, because otherwise he could have just held me there. And then if somebody had managed to get up behind me, I would be dead. By using the second repair kit in this vehicle and not using a toolkit, you can actually manage to really trick your opponents and it just feels right. Yes, T95, it raises its gun at the end of the battle. It does a little bit of a wiggle because that's all you can really do in this situation. You're not really going to be getting any more kills on the artillery because you're oh so slow, and even vehicles like a Tiger II or a Type 4 Heavy are going to be able to race into position to be able to get it. Now you see that communication in the T95 is also very important. As you can see here, I poetically put it. Skoda, protect my butt. And sometimes that's all you really need in the T95. It's somebody, some magical guardian to protect one's behind, to be able to do horrible things to your opponents in front. But whoa! Looks like the artillery was running right into my line of fire. I love it. Good old T95. Pose for the picture at the end of the game like a good old chappy. That's where you know you've had a good one, when you've got time to turn your vehicle around and to celebrate at the end of the battle. But today is a double helping even, of Tier 9 Tank Destroyer gameplay. So let's get into the other Tank Destroyer that just doesn't give a monkeys, but for kind of different reasons. And yeah, handshakes to all of you who have figured out that, of course, it's going to be the Tortoise. Give yourself a pat on the back. Did it really need? Does it really even need an introduction? This thing is famous in the game. It's the highest damage per minute. Well, at least it used to be. The Badger, now it's follow-on tank in the British Tank Destroyer tech tree has slightly higher damage per minute, but I'm going to ignore that because when you jump up a whole tier and you only gain 0.001% damage per minute, it's practically the same. It's only arbitrary. It's like arbitrary the fact that it's higher. This thing has higher damage per minute for its tier because, of course, this thing can meet tier 7s, whereas the Badger can't. And this thing's going to be meeting tier 9s and tier 8s way more than the Badger is. And I just love the Tortoise. I don't know what it is about this tank. It's the fact that it kind of looks like a freak, right? I like freaks in World of Tanks. I kind of like freaks in real life as well, you know? Let's not go there anyway. Let's focus on the game, right? So the Tortoise, it's a bit of a weirdo tank. It looks bizarre, but it's just designed to be this super heavy bunker tank. A bit like a T95. And I will say the T95's armor profile is just so much better than this. It's lower profile, it doesn't have a weak point on top that you can see up here on the tank. And the T95, I would far rather be in one of those if I just had to tank whatever's in front of me. But when I don't want to just tank whatever's in front of me, and I want to kill whatever's in front of me, then the Tortoise is the business. This is the tank for taking out your opponents as quickly as you possibly can. It's absolutely monstrous. Look at the rate of fire of this 120mm main armament. And then what you want to do is keep going backwards and forwards to try and make that weak point on top of the tank not as much of an obvious stationary target for your opponents. Even though we get unlucky and we bounce around off the top of the T-34's hull armor there, we just put another one in. This is 3,380 base damage per minute. The T-95 is packing pretty much about 66% of the combat capacity that this vehicle has with raw damage per minute output. What you can do with this 120mm because of this is just continue to lock down your opponents. You lock down their tracks and you finish them off. I'm not even going to use a repair kit. Why would I use a repair kit right now when I might need to be keeping it later on? I asked the KB4 to fall back because there's no point in pressing on, and it looks like there's a sneaky T44 and a Lanson that wants to get alongside me. Well, you know what? Tortoise doesn't give a monkeys. As I started off in this video, you guys think you're going to flank me? All right, boys. We'll see how well that goes. We'll see how well that goes. Lanson with his premium round bouncing off the top of my tank, and oh dear, that was actually a terrible shot. I was so busy to try and get my next shot on the T44 that I didn't focus on what was in front of me. And just look at the panic in their eyes. You guys tried to flank the Tortoise? Yeah, right. The Tortoise isn't having any of it. Run, boys. Run, boys. T44 taken out. Let's see if we can get this Lanson as well. He tracks me. Oh, well, I've got one repair kit. You track me again? Well, I'm going to have a second repair kit if the need arises. I like to use a super heavy spall liner in this tank, which dramatically reduces the chance that my crew are going to be incapacitated, to reduce the need of having a med kit in the first place. It also reduces the amount of stunning duration that we will take inside the tank, and as long as you have a vehicle like Jack of all trades, as long as your commander doesn't get taken out, it doesn't even matter. So the Emil is YOLOing all of his premium rounds into our vehicle. We miss a shot on the move there, unfortunately. I was hoping to lock down his tracks, and I like to keep moving and I like to keep shooting in the Tortoise. All of these misses don't even really matter all that much, considering the rate of fire that the gun has and the amount of ammunition that it carries. Literally, those misses, it would have been nice if they'd hit, but it was all more about taking the opportunity to see if we could hit him in the first place. It doesn't matter at all. We lock him down, we're going to be able to shut him down with an extra shot, and this is 120mm. This is the same as your big boy tier 10 tank destroyer guns. You know, on your T125, on your Super Conqueror. The same kind of alpha damage that you have on a Stridsvagn 103B, in fact, actually 10 higher, but just with a ludicrous rate of fire. 8.45 rounds a minute, 1.7 seconds aim time, and 0.31 accuracy, and fairly okay dispersion, at least only when you're turning the gun, but not when you're moving the hull. Just make the Tortoise an absolute winner. It's a complete and utter monster. It's a dominant tank, and I truly love this vehicle for just driving in. And you saw in pretty much 4 minutes there us pick up 5 kills and 5,000 damage, and that's why this is still one of my go-to tanks for when I just don't give a monkeys and I want to try and take down whatever chooses, or shall I say, I can manage to sit in front of my tank for a while. And you saw the enemies didn't want to sit in front of the Tortoise there. They really tried their hardest to flank, but as long as you've got at least a couple of allies, or at least you've got a couple of repair kits, you can really switch it around on your opponents. You can shut them down. Now, I'm not going to lie and say that, oh, these are the best tanks in the world, because they're really not. They have huge weaknesses. They're slow, they're cumbersome. Skilled players will be able to lock down their tracks and then get into this position and just fire here again and again and again and again. And you get to feast on 2,000 hit points. It's one of the most satisfying things when all of the damage that the tank is able to do, best-in-class damage in the game, is at the front, and you just incapacitate it and dominate it. Or alternatively, you work a ridge line, you pop up, you shoot it in its weak point, and then you pop back over the ridge. But yeah, that's if you can manage to do that. And it's the Tortoise driver's priority, or of utmost importance, that all they do is they try to lock you down and try and stop that from happening. And if they can do that, well, you've seen the outcome in this double dose of gameplay. So this was an ace tanker for the T95. We'll pick up a steel war medal and a high caliber medal for dealing 6,000 damage, 1,355 base, and 2,440 damage blocked, enough to defeat the tank once over. And we get 8 random medals there. On top of that, 45,000 credits received because we didn't need to fire any premium rounds, and we hit all but one of those chancy shots that we fired at the tiniest little part of the light tank turret as he was falling back over the ridgeline. On Runeberg, not quite enough for an ace tanker in the Tortoise for 1,340, showing you that actually, even though we got pretty much the same experience between these tanks, to be able to get that ace in the Tortoise, you need a little bit more than that, my son. 5,000 damage, 5 kills, again in the 4 minutes that this round lasted. And I don't know if we fired any premium rounds, but we still made a good profit with or without a premium account. So, 2 of the most just laissez-faire kind of tier 9 tank destroyers that you ever get. They do the same kind of thing, but one is focused more on defense and one is focused more on offense. And I don't really prefer either. Sure, the Tortoise is just magical for when the offense is going correct, but the T95 also has its magical moments when you just sit there and laugh and rack up 10,000 damage deflected inside those magical matchups, where of course there are no artillery. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Hope you enjoyed this one, this double helping of I Don't Give a Monkey's gameplay. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. If you hated it, give the video a thumbs down. And let me know if there are any other kind of special fan favorite tanks that you'd like to feature in these kind of double gameplay helpings. Things that you feel are similar, yet different. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.